Shalom Aleichem, Erev Tov, good evening. We are back together in Rambam Silchot Teshuvah. Tonight is October 7th. I spoke about it in the last shiur, but I really wasn't certain if we should have a shiur tonight. And there are all kinds of memorials and vigils and different ceremonies that are going on, but I figured, aside from my hesitation about the political undertones of most of those events, really, I was most concerned with, I think, the souls of our brothers and sisters, and even those who are fighting for us. Limud Torah is the one thing that I think is fitting to give to them and dedicate on their behalf. Let's just do this. If we can take up anything, we could just take all my books off. Okay. Rabbenu HaRambam writes in the 4th chapter of the Laws of Teshuvah, at the end, because we're wrapping up this chapter. He told us about different people that they cannot do Teshuvah, and different people that it's hard for them to do Teshuvah. Some people that do Averot, they don't even know they should do Teshuvah for. Remember all of those categories we spoke about? Michael, I have 2 chairs right here. You want to stay there? Okay. It's like SeaWorld. If you're sitting in the first 12 rows, then... In your books, you are on page 82. Says Rabbenu HaRambam, umehen chamisha devarim. There are 5 things. Ha'oseh otan yimashech acharehen tamid. That somebody who does one of these 5 things will always do one of these 5 things. Ven kashin lifrosh mehen. And it's very hard to stop doing them. So these are not averot that you cannot do teshuvah for, as much as these are averot that it's hard to stop doing them once you start, like Pringles. Achan, what do they say about Pringles? I don't. Zev, what do they say about Pringles? Wasn't that ingredient? Wasn't that? I remember that ad where once they pop, you can't stop, something like that. I'm feeling better, but let me talk to you after the class. I'll tell you what I'm up to. This seat's open. Both of them. Let me just move.
Yeah, right. Once you pop, the fun don't stop.
Oh, there you go. See, I knew it. I know my 1990s commercials. That's he's still alive. Vehen kashim lifrosh mehen. This, Pringles created one of the first halachic dilemmas. Because what bracha you say on potato chip changes when the potato chip is not really potato chip. You know what I mean? When you take a potato and you process a potato and you grind a potato and you reshape a potato, what is really a potato? That leads to all kinds of interesting literature on the halachic status of a potato. But why am I talking about Pringles in the Shul and the Rambam? There are certain avirot that you can move these 2 books forward and then you don't have to worry about it. Yeah. What are these things that are so hard that once you start them, you kind of get stuck in them and you cannot do teshuvah for? In that book on page 230 at the bottom. Lefichach tzarich adam lizaher mehen shema yidbak mahen. A person should be careful with these things because maybe you'll get stuck with them. There are certain things you do that are addictive. There are certain averot that you do that cause for problems. And therefore, if you do them and you know that it's hard to stop doing them, the best way to do teshuvah from them is just don't do them. Easier said than done. But there are certain things you want to avoid entirely. Vehen kulan deot raot ad meod. And they are all bad dispositions, very bad ones. When the Rambam uses the word deot to the Rambam means like habits that come from incorrect ways of thinking. People don't always realize that sometimes the physical things that you do are very much a consequence of the way you think about the world. And because you have a bad way of thinking, you end up doing things that are bad. And so these are actual manifestations of bad thoughts. That's why he calls them deot raot. Veluhen, and these are them. I'm going to read them all, and then I will go through one by one.
Anxiety is almost always an obsession.
Can you talk loud enough so this microphone can hear?
Normally, when people talk about anxieties that they have, there's an obsession that causes a compulsion to do a certain behavior to try to get rid of that thought.
Wow.
That's exactly.
Okay. So that's why the Rambam refers to bad behaviors as bad opinions.
Yeah.
I had a patient who brother died 4 years ago, still mourning. Mega doses of antidepressants and was frozen.
Probably because of the treatment plan.
By the way, mourning, you should know, mourning, especially Jewish mourning, it's an exceptional process of how to wean oneself off of grief. Most people don't have the tools. Think about this. In Jewish culture, the moment someone dies, their family members stop being Jewish. What do I mean? No brachot, no tefillin, no mitzvot, nothing, no prayers. They focus entirely on burial. Once burial happens, there are 7 days of mourning that are split up into the first 3 days, the second 4 days. That period has all kinds of restrictions. Mourning, it's a lot more intense than, for example, the next 3 weeks, which make up the first Shloshim, the month. Then from the Shloshim, there's the first 11 months, 12 months. After 12 months, every Askara. The point is to wean a person off of grief. You see in the US, for example, I had someone recently ask me to bury them. But it took a long time to get the body to burial. And so in the 2 or 3 weeks it took to get them to burial, everybody just went back to work. In halakha, it's inconceivable that someone dies today and tomorrow you're at work. You can't do that. You'll never kick it. You never took the time to fall. You have to fall now so that in 7 days you can get back to work. So in 30 days you could shave your face. So in 11 months you could listen to music again. So that in 12 months, that's how that works. You even have cultures that take the remains and put them on their fireplace in a little jar. And you say, when do you ever leave the burial? When do you ever leave the body behind? When do you ever leave the cemetery? Even when we go to a cemetery, which I know you've heard me speaking before about whether you should or shouldn't go to cemeteries. Achan, do you mind telling the choir that they should practice a little quietly? Yeah, slichot is only in the morning. Yeah, so I love this kehillat so much you don't even know. Thank you, Tova. So, what was that? That was not Nosach Sfarad. I can tell you for sure. I don't know that what Nosach that was. So here we have what was I telling you? Burial. Even when we go to a cemetery, we have to go to a cemetery sometimes. There's a blessing you make as soon as you come inside. It's a shocking experience. It's very jarring to see death, tombs, stones. And then when you leave, what do you do when you leave a cemetery? You have to wash your hands. The same way when you leave a bathroom. You have to rid yourself of the experience that was death. Right now, that's the whole, everywhere you go, it's like the tombstones, they come to you now in the season. This holiday of Halloween is human perversion at its best, or worst. It's depravity. It's a desensitization to death. You walk by someone's house and there's an arm sticking out of the ground. One of my neighbors once had a leg that looks like it got cut up, blood, bone. What's wrong with people?
Our neighbor has a balcony. They
Right, that's true. I mean, what's wrong with people? Death is not a joke. The same way that all of these video games, people are killing everybody, shooting everybody. I love it. I have to tell you the truth. All of my family, all of my cousins, all my uncles, all my aunts, they all served in the military. All of them. My aunts are stronger than most men you know. Like most Israelis. They're tough people. All of them were really in the military. All of them really had guns and missiles. On purpose, because she's here. Out of respect to my father. So we're... I love you. we're we are what? So we are video games. They really went to the military. Here in America, it's still fascinating. You see, I was in Target. I walked by the video game aisle. You have this little out of shape punk over there with his military fatigue and his all this stuff and buying some video game, sniper video game. This guy hears one real bullet and he's going to go hide back in his mother's basement that he lives in. Lo alenu. What happens when you play violent video games? You desensitize yourself to killing people. Killing people is not a joke. Killing another human being is crazy. Even a Jewish person who righteously kills someone in war stops serving in the Beit HaMikdash. You can't come back from that. We recognize that change, and the fact that we live in a culture, people watch movies, people play games, and it's normal, and nobody thinks it's bad. I'm going to tell you something now. The sexual deprivation that exists in the world is not as bad as the violence that is in the world. They're connected to each other. Violence and sexual depravity are connected. It comes from the lack of appreciation for the value of human dignity. So both of them, the ability for a person to, the words of our HaShamayim, for a person who has relations with everybody, the term for that is somebody who's mufkar lakol. They are free for all. They have no self-worth. Because if you could be with so many people, then you clearly don't appreciate yourself. You clearly don't value yourself. It's not that we hate you. By the way, Rabbenu HaRambam writes in Moreh Nevuchim, the prohibition against prostitution in the Torah. The prohibition of prostitution is not so much in the behavior of prostitution, but in the fact that wherever you find prostitution, you find weak women who are being exploited by people that are stronger than them. And that kind of corruption in society is horrible. That there are people that have such little worth that other human beings think they can do to them whatever they want. So violence is connected. But the fact that parents will buy such things for their children, will be okay with their children watching such things, with their husbands or wives watching such things, when you become desensitized to something, it doesn't matter to you anymore. I grew up in a house, my mother didn't even let us have water guns. I'm grateful to that. Because, but what do kids do? My mother, she drove a Lexus. She had the Lexus key was cool because it was the first key that had a button on it to unlock the car. I'm talking about a 1991 Lexus. And we would walk around, my brother Ariel and I, we'd use them. We'd use the Lexus key as little guns. So you can't get away from the desire to have the guns, yeah? But the idea that we don't even shoot water at people. Like, guns are real. Guns are for people who do things like save people's lives. That's what they're there for. Rabbi Yonatan has a book in Italian on the Essenes. And in there he writes about a very interesting thing, that the Essenes and the Chachamim of the Pharisees, both of them had an injunction that you should teach your child a parnasah, but only a clean parnasah, only a clean trade. And one of the requirements of a clean trade is not to build weapons. Jewish people should, not even to build shields. A shield is a defensive mechanism. Yeah, but when the soldier loses his sword, he still uses his shield to kill people with it. We tried to avoid such things entirely. It's a profession. Somebody has to do it, but it's not a umanut nikia. It's not clean. It's not for us. In Hebrew, we have a phrase. I don't know that it exists in America. Abraham, maybe you'll tell me from the military that's such a thing. As a person who does carry, it's called kedushat haneshek, the sanctity of the weapon. Is there such a phrase in English? Yeah, what do the Marines say about, what's the Korean? Interesting. Okay. So in Israeli culture, there's something I was not in the Israeli military, so maybe somebody here. There's a certain this weapon has in it the power of life and death. We don't take it lightly. It's not a game. It's not a joke. We carry this because we have no choice, but we wish we didn't. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, John wrote, maybe it's better translated as purity of weapon. John, I think this is your first live class with me, so welcome to the Beit Midrash. I appreciate you being here. This is something important. The idea that, and I got to weapons because I spoke about desensitization, spoke about Halloween, processing things. Deot. Your mind is the most vulnerable organ that you have. One of my rabbis, alav shalom, always shared with us that your brain is an incredible thing because it has no ability to forget. Anybody who's in the field of mental health knows that you can 50 years, 60 years later trigger thoughts, emotions, memories, pictures, visions. There are people that went through things that their brain erased, kivyachol. But then in the right moment, the right time, or the wrong moment, in the wrong time, it flashes back to them as if they were 8 years old in that dark room, in that place. Your brain does not have the ability to forget the things it sees. And so that's why HaKadosh Baruch Hu in the Torah, v'lo taturu achei levavchem v'achei einechem. Protect your eyes. You must protect, because the things that you bring into your mind, you can never take it out afterwards. You cannot unsee things. Try to forget, but it's a coping mechanism, but doesn't actually work. So Rabbenu HaRambam says, "Veluhen, these are them, rechilut, velashon hara," and I'm going to translate these as we do one by one. Okay. So this is kind of speech about other people that is bad. Uval chema, and a person who is an angry person. Uval machashava ra'a, and someone who thinks bad thoughts. Remember last time we spent a whole section of the shiur on the Rambam's Moreh Nevuchim, that it's worse to think about doing averot than doing the averot. You remember that? Yes? Okay. So that's connected here. Mipnei, V'amitchaber larasha, and someone who connects himself to a rasha. Why? Mipnei shu lomed b'ma'asav v'hem nirshamim b'libo. He learns from the rasha's actions, and then they become part of him. They penetrate his heart. Shamar Shlomo, that Shlomo says, "Vero'eh chesilim yero'a." Interesting pasuk. That somebody who hangs out with fools will become like them. It rubs off on you. People's stupidity rubs off on you. Try it. Go to a work environment where people curse, profanity, all day long. So you're living in a sewer, you're going to come out. It's going to happen to you. It doesn't matter that you don't say those words, but you hear them enough and they become part of you. Why? Because your environment is crucial to who you are. David HaMelech in Tehillim starts off, Ashrei ha'ish asher lo halach ba'atzat reshaim. Praiseworthy is the person who does not walk in the counsel of the wicked. Uvderech hata'im lo amad. He doesn't stand in the path of the sinners. Uvmoshav letzim lo yashav. He doesn't sit in a sitting of fools. So you have here wicked people, evil people. You have here sinners. They're not necessarily evil. They're just not good people. And then you have clowns, fools. Fools are also bad people. People who mock everything also are dangerous people. Praiseworthy is a person who is like that. He mentions David HaMelech that tzaddik is like a tree that's rooted in the ground near the river. His tree grows. But Reshaim, they're not like that. They're like something that the wind comes and it blows them away. Something interesting about the Reshaim is they have no integrity. There is no honor among thieves. Reshaim are, what's the classic example of Reshaim you might know? Politicians. Politicians all qualify as Reshaim. People always show you the same politician who stands there, swore, this is my platform, but you show them 10 years ago, they said something completely different. Why? Why? Because that's who they are. Wherever the wind blows them, that's where they go. They don't have a moral compass. They don't have something that guides. They just, the Reshaim. They do whatever they need to do to get wherever they want to be. That's what they do. Yeah, and a lot of people are full. Yeah? Understand that the people, they're lying to you. They're telling you what you want to hear. That's not a righteous person. The righteous person, think about Yirmiyahu. He was a bad politician. He didn't know how to tell the people what they wanted to hear. I'm exaggerating. Obviously, that was his job, was to tell them what they didn't want to hear. And what did they end up doing to him? They killed him. They say don't shoot the messenger. People shoot the messenger. That's why most people choose not to be the messenger. But says Shlomo HaMelech, if you hang out with bad people, you'll become bad. And it's very hard to do Teshuvah from hanging out with bad people, because what do you want me to do? To give up all my friends? Yeah. Yeah, by the way, behaviors also happen in groups. Rabbanit, when she was researching, hopefully she's going to start publishing her research from back when she researched suicide in the Hasidic community. But one of the interesting things about suicide, and forgive me if I'm over speaking you'll explain if I do it wrong, is that suicide is not just one person commits suicide. There's a social element to it. And it's the element of, because suicide is very taboo, when one person does it, you see what she calls in her research, suicide clusters. Multiple people do it one after the next. Interestingly, I'm going to just share, I'm not comparing the two, I am a little bit, but they call them divorce clusters. Yeah, very similar. Divorce is a big step that most people try to avoid at any cost. But once the friend does it, the brother does it, sister does it, then like the whole package. So you find a whole group of friends, and then all of a sudden, you're the only person left married. That's a behavior that happens. I'm not calling those people Rishaim. It normalizes a behavior that then you're not able to protect yourself from, because part of what you rely on is it takes a village to raise a child. You rely on certain social pressures to keep you in check. You see this? Of course. By the way, I'll give you an example for this. There's some musar from my kehillat. Very interesting thing. In my wife's community, when they date, so people will ask, like in San Diego, people date, they'll ask each other, like, do you keep Shabbat? Do you eat kosher? Do you go to synagogue on the weekend? Right? That's what they ask. In my wife's community, the questions are completely different. It'll be like, does he pray 3 times a day with a minyan, with a hat and a jacket? Right? Like, that's a very important thing. With black and white, like we spoke about last night, right? That's a question. And then you hear things like, oh wow, in San Diego, there are people that don't come to the Beit HaKnesset for mincha on Shabbat. And my wife, I was like, what? You mean you're Jewish and you consider yourself observant and you don't come to some of the tefillot? Oh, there's some people, they only come on Friday night, but on Shabbat morning. Or they come, and it's very unusual. I'll tell you why, by the way. We are lazy by our nature. We get busy by our nature. Of course, but listen, I'm explaining to you that here, think about it. My gosh, Shabbat is coming, working, Kabbalah is an hour and a half. By the time I make it, I'll be late. Forget it, I'm staying home, we'll have dinner. That's the thought. I know how it goes. It's not malicious. I don't come to tefillah on Shabbat. But imagine if you lived in a society where not going to Kabbalah Shabbat on Friday night is like not wearing pants. Like walking outside in your underwear. So there's a social pressure that keeps you doing things that are usually hard to do all the time. It doesn't make you a good person. It doesn't make you do it for the right reasons. But we all rely, to some extent, on social pressures for the smaller behaviors to stay in check, so we're not constantly... Think about if you had to consciously breathe all the time. You get tired just remembering to breathe. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu made it so you breathe on your own. Okay. Perfect. I'm not talking about the bad side of this, the positive side. The flip side is when you hang out with bad people, you then become immune to the sensitivity that most good people have. I spoke about it on Shabbat here. in certain Jewish communities, you can speak so much bad about the other, about non-Jews, for example, that you become desensitized to the fact that you're talking about HaKadosh Baruch Hu's children in a very derogatory way. Just because they're not Jewish doesn't mean they're not children of God. Who let you speak that way? You hung out with Rashai. You hung out with Chataim. You hung out with Letzim. With people that don't know how to properly speak in the world. I'll tell you, I'm embarrassed to tell you this. I read a book when I was in elementary school. I don't remember the name of the book. It's about the Deep South, back in the days of slavery in this country. And there were some words that as a San Diego Jewish kid, I didn't even know. Mostly profanity towards black people. I didn't know. My house never spoke like that. My parents never spoke like that. My friends never spoke like that. And I remember the teacher having to spell certain words we couldn't say, but they were in the book, and we had to learn what those words meant. And then I remember coming to the East Coast, to yeshiva, and in the yeshiva, hearing a rabbi use words that we as kids never even heard. I'm embarrassed to tell you that. I'm not telling you that with pride. I'm telling you that not with pride. I think to myself, this person lives in a society of resha. Because in his society, you could talk about other human beings in ways like that. Wait till he raises the anti-Semitic card when you hear something bad about Jews. But it doesn't matter when it's about somebody else. I grew up in San Diego. I never in my life, living in the Jewish community in San Diego, never in my life did I hear a racial slur from Mexican or Hispanic people. Ever. I'm talking not from family, not from friends, not in school, not from the bullies, nobody. But when I went to the Jewish community in the East Coast, I heard things there that you would think I should hear here. What do they know about Mexicans in Maryland? We live in Mexico here. But it was unbelievable to me. There's a society of people, but if you would even bring it up, they think you're crazy. Because it's a deep part of that world. And it's very sad for me to share that with you. But that's a consequence of living in a place where part of society is educating you on what's right and wrong, and they're not doing a good job. You have to be very careful, says Rambam, who you hang out with. And you can't know to do Teshuvah from that, because what does it mean to do Teshuvah from my friends? He continues. And in the laws of Deot, which is a few chapters earlier, we already wrote a whole section on things that a human being should always do. Kal v'chomer leBaal Teshuvah, how much more so for a person who is a Baal Teshuvah. What does it mean about Teshuvah? Yeah, someone, very good. Someone who's working on fixing themselves from Averot. And so I thought that right now might be a good time to jump back a little bit in the Rambam. Now you're on 82, but I'm just about to switch you up. So let's go look in the laws of Deot. Yeah, let's start there. So I'm going to tell you what page it's on. Oh, wait, you find laws of Deot in your book? Zev for us.
It's starting page 45.
Okay, I want chapter 7. Zev for us, it's going to be.
It'll be on page 50.
Oh, you're using that one. Okay. You didn't bring your own? I thought I saw you with your own. No. Okay. So 53 in your books. Wait. It's not. These are the same. They're just different page numbers. That's all. Because this one has a commentary. Has anyone heard of the book Chavetz Chaim on Lashon Hara? I don't have a copy here in the Beit Knesset. Anyone ever seen how big it is?
They have different versions.
But at least it's this big. At least it's this big, no? Sometimes it's even bigger. And it's only one of the many books Chavetz Chaim wrote about Lashon Hara. Listen, Hara Peretz held Chavetz Chaim in very high regard. I'm not saying anything about him. I'm saying about the book. It always bothered Hara Peretz that a topic that is so short became a whole book. Rabbenu HaRambam has a whole chapter on the laws of things that are forbidden to speak. Everything included in the chapter. And it's called chapter 7 of the laws of De'ot. Can you count how many halachot are in this chapter? I have 8 in mine. You have a ninth one? Chet, 8. Yeah. 8. So Rambam has 8 halachot that include all of the Shon Hara, Rechilud, all of that is in 8 sentences. How could it be then you have to write a whole book? It also makes it complicated because you don't even know anymore what's halakha, what's not halakha, what can I do, what can I not do. And I'm going to add that in our generation in particular, the prohibition of speaking Lashon Hara is used to squelch proper critique of the community. It's used to cover up abuse. It's used to cover for bad people. It's used for in a lot of very horrible ways. And therefore, it's really important that you know the real halachot of Lashon Hara. Because if you only know the fake ones, then you'll be trapped in some reality that you don't want to be part of. Let's look here in Zion.
That's why it's so big.
Yeah, the question: how big can you make it? My mother once came to Israel to visit me in yeshiva, and at the time I was learning the laws of marriage with her parents, chuppah v'kiddushin. And my mother came into the office of Rabbi Shushan, who shared the office with Rabbi Ben Izri, and she saw on the shelf a book. I don't want to tell you the name of the book, but it was the book on the laws of ketubot, 8 volumes. And she wanted to buy the set for me. And I went to ask her parents. And our parents said, he said, do you see this book? I wrote all of the halachot in marriage in this one book, including ketubot. He said, Maran in the Shulchan Aruch has a couple chapters on the laws of ketubot. He said, this rabbi wrote 8 volumes. He said, that means that 99% of it is garbage. You don't need it. He said, why would you waste money buying something? It's bitul Torah. That's what he said. It's a waste of time learning Torah. It was an attitude. I once was in a store in Yerushalayim, not far from my in-laws' house. It's called Manny's, and I went inside. They had a 3-volume book on the laws of Asher Yatzar, the blessing you say when you go out of the bathroom. Maran doesn't even have a whole chapter in Shulchan Aruch about it. Maran has like 4 halachot about it. I don't know, 5, don't catch me on the number. A very short section. How did you write 3 volumes? I mean, where did you even get all that information from? This is before ChatGPT. This is before someone could make up stuff for you to fill up a book. It's unbelievable to me. Let's read this together. Even better. Hamiragel b'chavero. Somebody, miragel is similar to the word mirachel. It's they're words that are mitchalfot. They're letters that are exchangeable. Over, who is someone who gossips. In English, it's like a spy almost, but here we're using it as mirachel. They say in English a gossip mongerer. Is that an English word? Yeah. Over belo taseh violates a biblical commandment. Shneimar lo telech rachil be'amecha. Do not go gossiping in your nation. Ve'af al pi she'en lo kin alav zeh. And even though we don't beat a person with lashes for this avira, avon gadol hu, it's a great sin. V'gorem laharog nefashot rabot miYisrael. And he causes for many people to die because of this. Lechach nismach lo, and that's why immediately attached to that prohibition of do not gossip among your people, it says lo ta'amod al dam re'echa. Do not stand idly by your brother's blood. Tze'ulmad, go and learn ma era ledoeg ha'edomi. He's Adomi. What happened to Doeg ha'edomi? Doeg, who is he? Doeg.
We got the whole city of Nov Irakon.
Yes. So let's tell it. Rabbi, do you want to tell a story? Achanan, come. If not, Rachel's going to beat you to it. Okay. Come here. So they can see you. Now, you got taller since the last time you spoke here, so you have to make sure you're in that frame at the bottom. Good. Now talk loud enough so this microphone can hear you. Go. No, not that frame. The bottom one. Come, stand here next to me. B'chava.
Okay, so basically, when David was running from Shaul, he ran into a city. He was hopping around the city. No, and then this guy, Doeg, I don't remember that part, but his last name, he came and told Shaul that he saw David, the city. So Shaul comes and wipes out all the Kohanim. Later, that leads to 7 of his relatives dying because of those people that Yeshua got tricked by, asked for him, the Givonim.
So Achimelech was the Kohen Gadol. And no, Achimelech was the Kohen Gadol. And you could check. I have it not read there. And Achimelech, come here, I want to see you. Achimelech didn't know, he didn't really know what was going on here. He didn't know that David was running away from Shaul. But what happened? Doeg, who was one of the servants of Shaul, he slandered Achimelech and said that Achimelech is helping your enemy run away. And so what did Shaul do? He massacred.
He killed him.
Thank you. He massacred the whole city of Kohanim.
The thing is that Doeg knew.
Yes, you're right, Rachel. Meaning he threw him under the bus, literally. And he got all of them killed for what? Because of Richidut. Because he decided to go around spreading rumors about people. By the way, if you want to see something very interesting, I didn't bring it with me here. Rabbenu HaRambam writes Al-Hanan in Pirkei Avot, in his commentary on the Mishnah. He says that the reason why Doeg became so corrupt, Rabbanit, because he was close to politics. People who, he says, the closeness to politics, gorem lehefsed hadat, causes for you to lose your religious rights. I mean, that's why Doeg was ended up being such a person. But he was too close to the government. Okay. But a rochel, what is a rochel? A rochel is yeah, but what is a rochel?
Salesman.
A salesman. Yeah. You ever been to the shuk?
Someone who goes from place to place.
Yeah, he's a peddler. That's the place? A peddler. He peddles things. Goes door to door. Cold calls people. Yeah? Goes door to door. So, just like you go to door selling things, a rochel, in Arabic, they call them a yenta. In Yiddish, they call them, what is a yenta? A yenta is somebody who knows everything that's happening in the neighborhood. You call her, but there's people like that in San Diego. When I want rumors to be spread about Kehillat Shaar HaShamayim, like we just got a $17 million grant, yeah, I tell the yenta, and then I already know that in 3.5 hours, all of San Diego is going to know. Sometimes it even takes 2 hours. And there's certain people that they have a chazakah that they don't keep anything to themselves. Never tell those people your secrets. But they're good for PR. Every neighborhood has a yenta. Every community has a yenta. It's a rachil. It's a biblical prohibition to be a yenta. It's against the Torah. And people like that get people killed. That's what Rabbenu was. By the Rambam, every time the Rambam says tzeh ulmad, those words, go out and learn, he always means go to the Torah or the Mishnah, or to the Mikra, and to learn. It's always a biblical story. He always uses those words to reference a biblical story.
He ties it back to this difficult behavior.
Yes. Ezehu rachil. What is a rachil? זה שהוא טוען דברים, והולך מזה לזה, ואומר כך וכך, אמר פלוני, כך וכך, שמעתי על פלוני, אף על פי שהוא אומר אמת. הרי זה מחריב את העולם. This is a person who goes around peddling information about other people. By the way, he's not telling lies, necessarily. And he's not really telling bad things about people. He just tells things about people. All day, he talks about other people, the whole day. They're also, what I mean in the wrong context is that they violate the privacy of individuals. They're always like things that, oh, you want to know the scoop about it? Guess what I heard about someone's, you know, who's getting married, who's getting divorced. It's not bad things necessarily, just he talks too much about other people. He destroys the whole world. Yesh avon gadol mizeh ad mod. There's an avera even worse than this one. V'hu bichlal lav zeh, and it's included in this prohibition. V'hu lashon hara. V'hu hamisaper bignut chavero. This is a person who speaks bad about his friend. אף על פי שאמר אמת, even though he is saying the truth. What does that mean? It's truth. It's just bad truth. אבל האומר שקר? Somebody who lies about his friend is not speaking לשון הרע. Somebody who lies, מוציא שם רע על חברו נקרא. He's called a מוציא שם רע על חברו. He is bringing a bad reputation about his friend. Why'd you make up a lie about me? That's not even true. My wife always says that Mark Twain said that he loves to hear rumors about himself because he learns all kinds of things about himself he never knew before. There are people that they make up stuff about people. They're just liars. It's not true what they said. Like if you say bad things about me, but it's true, okay, it's Lashon Hara, but at least it's true. But you make up stuff about somebody, it's not true. That's what? Of course. מוציא שם רע על חברו. אבל בא לשון הרע זה שיושב ואומר כך וכך עשה פלוני, וכך וכך היה לו אבותיו, וכך וכך שמעתי עליו, אומר דברים של גנאי. This person says, oh, I heard so-and-so that this guy did such and such thing. I heard that this guy's parents were like that. This is what I heard about that person. על זה הכתוב אומר, about this, the pasuk in Tehillim says, יחרט אדוני כל צוותי חלקות, לשון מדברת גדולות. That הקדוש ברוך הוא should cut off all of the tongues that speak this way. That's what David HaMelech says. Halacha Gimel. Amru Chachamim. Our Chachamim say, Al shalosh averot nifraim min ha'adam ba'olam hazeh. There are 3 averot that a person gets punished in this world for them. Ve'en lo chelek l'olam haba. He doesn't have a portion in the world to come. So he gets punished in this world and the next world. Avodah zarah, foreign worship, gilui arayot, sexual promiscuity, ushfichut damim, and murder. Ve'lashon hara keneged kulam. And lashon hara is like all 3 of them together. Ve'od amru chachamim, and a rabbi said more than that. Kol hamisaper b'lashon hara ki'ilu kafar ba'ikar. Somebody who speaks lashon hara is as if he violates one of the principles of our faith. What do we know about him? What do we know about somebody who is a... Yeah, let's see. Rabbenu HaRambam, kafar beikar is a person who doesn't believe in HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Because if you believed in HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you wouldn't speak Lashon Hara. I told you not to speak it. You think HaKadosh Baruch Hu not listening to what you say? שנאמר לקצץ אשר אמרו לשוננו נגביר שפתנו איתנו מי אדון לנו. We say let's speak Lashon Hara because we own our own mouths. Who's a king over our mouth? Not HaKadosh Baruch Hu. When you say whatever you want, in Judaism we don't have the freedom of speech. Your freedom of many things, but not speech. Speech is not yours to say whatever you want. ועוד אמרו חכמים, and our rabbis say more than that, שלושה לשון הרע הורגת. לשון הרע kills 3 people. האומרו, the one who speaks it, והמקבלו, and the one who accepts it, who believes it, וזה שאומרים עליו, and the person you're talking about. So 3 people die from לשון הרע. The one who speaks it because of his avera, the one who believes it because of his avera, and the one who you're speaking about because you're speaking about him. והמקבלו יותר מן האומרו. The person who believes the Lashon Hara is worse than the one who says the Lashon Hara. You could tell him, shut up, I don't want to hear you. Be quiet, I'm not listening. But you chose to listen. Oh, yeah, let's hear. Why? He wants to peddle avirot, let him peddle avirot. Why to you? Why do you have to get involved? If somebody says, hey, can you help me bury this dead body? Why do you have to bury dead? You bury your own dead body. I'm not going to prison for you. Say the same thing about Lashon Hara. Don't come talk to me. What do they say in Hebrew? Lashon hara lo medaber elai. Lashon hara doesn't speak to me. Yeah, don't speak to me. ויש שם דברים שהן אבק לשון הרע. Ima, you see, Rambam includes here even the avak, so you didn't have to write another book for it. There are things, they're like the dust of lashon hara. They're like the residual lashon hara. Ketzad, what is that? מי יאמר לפלוני שיהיה כמות שהוא אתה. Who knew that guy could be so righteous today? Who knew? You remember when he was? Remember how far he's come? It's like a backhanded compliment. Wow, I can't believe that mouth that used to eat shrimp is able to read the Torah so nicely. What are you doing? You're speaking about another person. או שיאמר, שיתקו מפלוני. איני רוצה להודיע מה אירע או מה היה. Or you say, don't talk to me about that guy. You don't want me to tell him you don't want me to tell you what I know about him. Excuse me. You just said something by telling me not to say something. וכיוצא בדברים אלו. These are all things that are connected to the לשון הרע. וכן המספר בטובת חברו בפני שונאיו. There's another way to say לשון הרע by saying something good. I've spoken to you about this before. If you say nice things about somebody in front of the person who hates them, right? There are places you can mention Kehillat Shaar HaShamayim, see what they say. הרי זה אבק לשון הרע, שזה גורם להם שיספרו בגנותו. It's אבק לשון הרע because you cause them now to say bad things. So you're taking a gamble. Maybe it works. Maybe it doesn't. Yeah.
You have to know your audience.
You have to know your crowd. ועניין זה אמר שלמה. And about this, שלמה המלך says, מברך רעהו בקול גדול, בבוקר השכם, קללה תחשב לו. שמתוך טובתו בא לידי רעתו. שלמה המלך talks about blessing a friend early in the morning so everybody hears him. It can be considered a curse also. Make sure who you bless in front of. וכן המספר בלשון הרע דרך שרוק ודרך קלות ראש. And somebody who speaks לשון הרע is a joke. כלומר, שלא מדבר בשנאה. He doesn't actually hate them. Oh, I'm not trying to offend you. Why are you being so sensitive? You know that sentence? Why are you taking it so serious? It's not personal. Those don't. Yeah, you're speaking trash about me. Why should I not be sensitive? That's what Shlomo HaMelech means when he says, look how much you have to know. Look how much you have to know Ketuvim Efes. Shlomo says, כי מתלעליה היורה זיקים חיצים ומוות, כן איש רימה את רעהו ואמר הלא משחק אני. It's like a person who is shooting sparks and arrows out of his mouth. And, I'm just joking. I just shot you by it was a joke. I saw this wedding of Arabs. And the Arabs like to fire guns at their weddings. My whole life growing up in the old city, all you hear is bullets at night because they're shooting in the air. But this guy, he was drunk and he was shooting guns. And so he was waving his gun around. And people are trying to jump out of his way. And they're cursing at him. He's, I'm just having fun. What do you guys? He was like fighting with them. And it's like, who invited this crazy guy to the party? You're going to kill us. It doesn't matter. It's a joke. Tomorrow morning when you wake up, it's not going to be a joke. Someone's going to be dead on the floor. You say things sometimes, it's like shooting arrows in the dark. Shooting bullets in places you don't know there's anybody there. וכן המספר בלשון הרע דרך רמאיות. The person speaks לשון הרע in a... Okay, let's say, והוא שספר לתומו. You're saying something innocently. וכאילו אינו יודע שדבר זה לשון הרע הוא אלא כשממכין בו אומר איני יודע שאינו מעשיו של לפוניו שזה לשון הרע. You'll say something like, oh, I didn't know it was Lashon Hara to say that. You say something, you know you shouldn't say it. Or you say, oh, I didn't know I was talking about so-and-so. You make it sound like you didn't mean it. That's trickery. You tricked people into Lashon Hara. אחד המספר בלשון הרע, בפני חברו, או שלא בפניו. Whether you say Lashon Hara in front of your friend, or not in front of your friend. Meaning the fact that you say it privately doesn't save you from the prohibition of Lashon Hara. והמספר דברים שגורמים, or you say things that cause לשון הרע. Maybe I'll give you an example. Let's say Michael wants to open a coffee shop, and Elchanan wants to open a coffee shop. So I tell Michael, hey, Hanan's planning to open a coffee shop. Lashon hara? No. But then Michael goes to open a coffee shop first. He does something to make sure Hanan can't open a coffee shop. Something like that. That's causing evil to happen. אם נשמעו איש מפי איש להזיק חברו בגופו במנוע, אפילו להצר לו להפחידו, הרי זה לשון הרע. Even if you're doing this to scare the person, to teach them a lesson, whatever it is, it's לשון הרע. ואם נאמרו דברים אלו בפני שלושה, and if you said it in front of 3 people, כבר נשמע הדבר ונודע, it already becomes something that is famously known. ואם סיפר הדבר אחד מן השלושה פעם אחרת, אין בו משום לשון הרע, ושלא יתכוון להעביר הכל וגלותו יותר. Okay, this is an interesting exception to the rules of לשון הרע, that once something becomes completely public knowledge, then it's no longer לשון הרע to talk about it. I'm not going to tell you it's identical, but similar in the United States too, you can't really slander a public figure. You know this law here? I mean, yes, you can slander them, but once they opt in to be president of the United States, then really they can't sue you for a personal lawsuit of slander or defamation. They've lost the right to that because their life is not public. But in Judaism, we have that rule? No. Unasi ba'amecha lo ta'o. You cannot curse a prince in your nation. It's the opposite is the case. Maybe not because of the prince, because of the office that the prince holds. Yeah, it's very important to maintain the dignity of that office. But what you have here is once something becomes public knowledge, then you're not really peddling someone's secret because it's not really a secret anymore. Kol elu hem baalei lashon hara. All of these people are people who speak lashon hara. She'asur ladur bishchenutam. It is forbidden to live in their neighborhood. V'chol sheken leshev imahem lishmoa divrehem. How much more so you can't even sit with them or listen to them talk. You know somebody speaks lashon hara in your neighborhood, technically you should get up and go. You know who did this? They always tell you miracle stories about the Baba Sali. I don't know anything about miracles. I don't know anything about Babas. It's not my department. I do know that the Baba Sali, when he moved from Morocco to Israel, he used to live in Morocco in some village out in the mountains. It was very isolated. And he came to Israel, and he ended up in Netivot, which is like, if you could find a pile of sand somewhere and then say, I'm going to live here. Like, it was like in the middle of nowhere. Baba Sali was invited to live in a lot of places before. He came to one place, and on Shabbat, he heard the rabbi speaking bad about other Jews. He got up, his whole family, he moved cities. The next place he went, he heard the rabbi give a drasha. He said something bad about Hasidim. He got up and he moved cities. The third time he said, forget it, I'm just going to go live in the middle of nowhere. I don't want anyone near me. That's what caused him to move 3 times. He took it very seriously, not to live in a place where people speak Lashon Hara. ולא נחתם גזר דין על אבותינו במדבר, אלא על לשון הרע בלבד. And the forefathers in Egypt, in the desert, were only punished because they spoke Lashon Hara. Who do they speak Lashon Hara about?
About Israel.
About Eretz Yisrael.
And Miriam.
Our parents would quote this halacha a lot as it pertained to certain groups of Jews. He said, people tell me that when I walk in Yerushalayim, I should take off my glasses so I don't see the people that are immodestly dressed. And our parents said, the only neighborhood I take off my glasses is the one that I live in. He said, because all of the walls are covered with Lashon Hara about Eretz Yisrael. About the soldiers, about the prime minister, but they said, I can't live with that. How do you speak all day bad about Eretz Yisrael? That's what our forefathers got punished for. But the next 2 halachot are about revenge and avenge. I'm not going to teach those now. But Rabbenu HaRambam, back to laws of Teshuvah, he tells us that Lashon Hara and Rechilut are so hard to do Teshuvah because once you get in the cycle, how are you ever going to break it? How are you going to stop? It's very hard. By the way, there's another element that Rambam does not mention to this, which is in order to do Teshuvah for something, you have to be able to accept that you did it, okay. You have to admit it, okay. Lashon Hara is a prohibition between you and God or you and other people. Ben Adam L'Chavero, for sure, between you and other people. So a Kadosh Baruch Hu cannot forgive you for something that you did to somebody else, correct? So then you have to ask forgiveness for the person you said Lashon Hara about, and you have to fix the avera, no? So how are you going to do teshuvah for something that you don't even know where it went? You steal something from somebody, you can give it back. Yes? But what if you don't know who you stole it from? Or you sold it to a bunch of different people? Or what if you can't get it back? What happens then? There's a famous story about a rabbi. I heard about it in Ashkenaz. That's where I heard the story. Where some lady said the Shona about her friend. She wanted to do teshuvah. She came to the rabbi heartbroken. And the rabbi said, the way you do teshuvah, it's a famous story. The way you do teshuvah for this avera of the Shona, you have to bring me a pillow. I said, a pillow? So, yeah, come to me tomorrow. We'll get a pillow. I'll show you how you do teshuvah for this avera. Said, okay. She brings a pillow. And he takes her for a walk to the top of the mountain in the middle of the village. He said, okay, now I want you to open the pillow. And now, 3 times, shake out all the feathers on top of your head. And she shakes out all the feathers on top of the head. He said, now wait. They watch the feathers are flying, east, west. He said, okay, good. Now, I'm going to keep the pillow sack. You go bring me all the feathers that came out of the pillow. That's when you can do teshuvah for Rosh Hashanah. You have no clue where your words are going to end up. I can tell you personally, Lishon Hara that was said about me has ended up in places I don't even know people. So I made it all the way to places where I don't even exist yet. It's very special. I'm sure you've experienced similar things in your life. All of a sudden, people talking about you, but you don't even know me. I tell you when I used to know it the most, tomato sauce, that tomato sauce, Hashem Yishmael. When I knew it the most, sometimes, this was before COVID, when my wife and I still walked to the school building. Now we walk into the preschool or school, or we walk into Ralph's Kosher, we walk into a restaurant, and it's obvious to us that we don't know anybody in the room. Like these are new people, new parents, new. And all of a sudden people get quiet. It's like, what? We don't even know you. I would love for you to share with me what it is that you know about me, because I don't know who you are. How do you know? Lishon hara never ends. It's a avera. It's a gift that keeps on giving, and therefore it's so hard to do teshuvah for. Our speech is crucial. Now, what did I tell you on Shabbat? Rabbi Yonatan Halevy quoted from the New Testament, and he said, "How foolish is it to say that it's not important what goes into your body; it's only important what comes out of your body." And he spoke to us about the purity of foods. I agree with that. There was a famous Ashkenazi rabbi, Rabbi Israel Salanter. He said that if only people were as careful with what came out of their mouth as what went into their mouth. Similar, but it's better, in which it accepts that both directions are important. People don't care about what they say about other people. Mori Harav is a good example. Harav Peretz was not a chassid by a long shot. More than he was not a chassid by a long shot, he was not a Chabadnik by a long shot. I have on my website a video that I posted about Harav Peretz talking about Chabad. And he was beside himself that Jewish people could write off an entire section of other Jews just like that. He said it's very common. All Chabadniks. He said, how do you talk like that? You can't talk like that. It's not appropriate that Am Yisrael should speak like that about each other. All the Ashkenazim, all the Sephardim, all the Chilonim, all the... What's wrong with you? How do you slander an entire population of people you can never do teshuvah for? Because how are you ever going to find all of them in the world to ask forgiveness for? We have to be very careful. I wasn't planning on having a shiur tomorrow night, but maybe I should. What do you think? Tomorrow's Tuesday night.
It's a good idea.
I usually do, but I have a bedin on Wednesday. Let's have a shiur tomorrow night. I'll finish the second half of this, and we'll end for this year the laws of Teshuvah of the Rambam. It's okay with you? All right. So, B'ezrat Hashem, tomorrow night we'll come back here at 7:30 for the other part of the shiur.